welcome back to the channel. No with Nichols, man. I ain't gonna waste a whole lot of time. Got some new information for y'all. So that being stated, my contents for educational purposes only. Can't stress enough for you guys to do your own research. Praise my content in the areas you find, throw in the comments. None of us have been alive long enough to know all that transpired in the past. And none of us can live long enough to know what there is to learn. All right. Been digging through the crates and ran across something that is actually in line with where a portion of my studies are at right now. You guys have actually heard me say this on the channel quite a few times. I'm going to read for you a short document, and the title of it is, what is HJR 192? House Joint Resolution 192. Can we discharge our debts to the government? Okay. All right. What is HJR 192? Before House Joint Resolution 192 was passed, Executive Order 6102 was signed into effect by President Roosevelt. This executive order required all gold and gold certificates to be surrendered to the federal government by May 1st, 1933. House Joint Resolution 192 was then passed by Congress on June 5th, 1933. This law was passed to do away with the gold clause in the Constitution and in all public and private contracts. Contracts make the law, y'all, if you didn't know. Goes on to read, 1933 was also when the United States went bankrupt, which was not the first time that it went bankrupt, pardon me. In fact, the United States was so far in debt that it went bankrupt 2 additional times previously. Once in 1789, forming the Constitution so the states could sign on as security for the Fed's debt. And then in 1861, when the southern states said no more and wanted to succeed rather than sign on to another pledging of assets to pay the federal government's debt. All right. Then in 1933, and with House Joint Resolution 192, they took all the gold, all the true money, all the property. See, they vested ownership of all property with the state. Which means that you turn blue in the face waiting to get title to your property. Unless you know the measures, that need to be taken in order to, acquire that. And that's a little too much for me to get into with this one video, so I'm gonna stay on task. All right. All the property in instituted eminent domain, and property taxes / divided land titles, and instituted the income tax to control the labor of the people. Yeah, that was one of the reasons. We already, let me just read the document. In addition, with HJR 192 is when they instituted the birth certificates to control the people and have the future American people become the collateral for all the federal government's debts. Yeah, well, yeah, basically, yeah. I'm gonna leave that alone. Yes, that's right. Your birth certificate is the title to your body and it has been pledged as an asset. This is what gives the Federal Reserve notes value. The holder has the right to the taxes and fines, fees, etc., that you pay to the government through judgments, court cases, payroll, income taxes, property taxes, etc. From the very beginning, the government was indebted to European bankers as a result of the Revolution, the Revolutionary War. I'm assuming that that's what they referencing. Anyway, the revolution is what it says, because I may be wrong. How ironic that we had to borrow money from England to pay for the war we fought against them. All right. So, fast forward to the early 1900s, and you'll come across several key events that make it quite obvious there was a master plan at work to enslave the people. If you read a book named The Creature from Jekyll Island, The Creature from Jekyll Island, you'll become intimately acquainted with the happenings in the year 1910, when 6 men who were either elite bankers and or politicians met in secret in a place named Jekyll Island. The purpose of this meeting was to formulate plans for economics reforms for the United States. This is where the banking cartel began in this country. The idea of a central bank had always been rejected. And so the men who met on Jekyll Island needed to come up with a way to trick the people into allowing a central bank to be instituted. 3 years later, in 1913, President Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act into effect, which is the current central bank in the United States, even though it is actually not governed by any agency of the federal government. 8 years later, in 1921, the Maternity Act was passed, which required all birth to be registered with the state. So now all key pieces were in place for the upcoming bankruptcy, default, and restructure. In 1933, when the federal government went bankrupt, they passed Executive Order 6102 and HJR 192 and pledged us as collateral to back the government debt. They made us slaves, but they couldn't technically make us slaves because that would be illegal. So they had to give us a remedy. So what is the HJR 192 remedy? It is that oh my goodness, don't tell me I'm missing some of this. Hold up. Oh, it is that the government has the obligation to discharge and settle any debts we may incur in our daily lives. Ooh. Yes, this includes mortgages, car loans, utilities, etc. But wait, wasn't HJR 192 repealed? Technically it was, but the provisions that brought us into having no money of substance still exists and apply. In other words, we didn't go back to using real money, gold and silver again, and therefore the maxim of whoever brings the obligation must bring the remedy still applies. So the government still has the fiduciary duty to discharge and settle our debts because we still don't have access to money of real substance. And because the USA is still in bankruptcy mode, Chapter 11 to be exact, oh, okay. I kind of enunciated those words a little wrong based on where it's at. Let me read that sentence over. It says, so the government still has the fiduciary duty to discharge and settle our debts because we still don't have any access to money of real substance and because the USA is still in bankruptcy mode. So the Secretary of the Treasury is still the receiver in a bankruptcy. Your birth certificate is still a bond and your debts are still prepaid by your future labor, property, and taxes that they are assuming the administration of in taxes that they are assuming in taxes that they are assuming the administration of as that'll make sense. That's why I paused. It says your birth certificate is still a bond and your debts are still prepaid by your future labor, property, and taxes that they are assuming the administration of. Okay. As the office of the executor of the estate of the all caps John E. or Jane E. Doe. Name. They still hypothecated the birth certificate and made billions off the birth certificate or naturalization of every new citizen. In fact, in every court case over 7,000, there are new bonds created and traded off your birth certificate estate. Okay, so now that we know this information about House Joint Resolution 192, can we just write something like discharge according to HJ 192 on a bill and call it a day? The short answer is no. We cannot simply scribble some words at a 45-degree angle like other gurus are teaching across the bill and think that we are done. And we never have to pay FRNs, Federal Reserve Notes, for our bills ever again. This is why those who are not fully informed call this the HJR 192 scam, because it isn't easy breezy. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. The fact of the matter is this is just the tip of the iceberg. And the rabbit hole goes far deeper than any of us ever imagined. If we really want to change our lives, it will take massive amounts of studying and a healthy dose of trial and error. We need to educate ourselves not only on the history of how all this came about, but also stay on the forefront of new technologies that can be used to change our status and obtain our remedy as close to 100% of the time as possible. Okay, now, I always say it at the beginning of every video, but I am going to give y'all, a point in definitely one of the directions. I'm not going to say it's the only direction because I'm actively studying this myself. But I am going to turn you guys on to the term accepted for value. You guys might want to look that up or investigate that term. You know, I did, and I came up with, well, can y'all even see that? Hell no. Y'all can't see nothing on there. Let me see if I, okay, there you go. Let me see if I can bring it up here kind of slow. What does accepted for value mean? All right. And I'm gonna take it a little step further. I'm gonna take it a step further. All right. All right, I'm gonna just read the first two paragraphs because it's going to give you where you can study to uncover some remedies. All right. And this is why I showed y'all and talked so much about the Uniform Commercial Codes, the blue book that's about this thick. All right. What does accepted for value mean? Accepted for value, or A4V in parentheses, is at the foundation of remedies available for commercial demands made by the United States, the corporation, as I just got finished reading to you. All right. Introduction. The Uniform Commercial Code in Article 3 that deals with negotiable instruments is one source of explanation. Article 8 deals with investment securities, and Article 9 deals with secured transactions. In addition to opinions written by judges to shed light on our remedies, all three of these articles hold a key to understanding commercial set-off. The UCC had an overhaul in 2000, but the major principles remain the same, and I just explained why. All right? We still ain't went back to using de jure money. Ain't no gold, no silver being paid for no debts. All right? The changes appear to be to the sections that deal with secured transactions, Article 9, and some with investment securities, Article 8, but negotiable instruments are what lead to those securities. The phrase accepted for value has little coverage in the code books or in court opinions. Never will they give you what you need to liberate yourself or come from underneath of their thumb being on your motherfucking neck. And the conduit to your slavery, which is, damn, I gotta pay these bills. Oh, how this gonna get paid? Oh, I wanna go hang out, I wanna go do this, but I gotta go to fuck to work. All right, act like you don't know what that's about if you want. Or, nigga, I gotta hit this block. Shit, you know what I mean? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I thought you figured that. Yeah. All right. All right. So, a better understanding of the commercial terms acceptance and value and how they relate to instruments in general would be a good place to start. So, like I said, man, you know, at some point, you know, we gotta stop. We gotta start sacrificing. You know, instead of coming out of the mall with bags full of sneaks and clothes, you know, you might have to get on Amazon and order you some books and get your read on, get your study on, and figure some shit out. You dig what I'm saying? And you know, those that do, salute. And hopefully, if anybody gets there prior to me getting there, they'll be willing to do the same shit I'm doing. But regardless of the fact, I'm gonna keep on, pushing towards what it is I'm pushing towards, the objectives that I set for myself. I need some water. But anyway, man, I just, this has just been another installment, man. Some information I felt like the people needed to be aware of. For those of y'all, excuse me, for those of y'all that, may feel like I do, where the fuck is the contract that I signed that you got my John Hancock on that say that I agree to all this bullshit y'all got me doing? Excuse me. It amongst other things, but at the end of the day, just another piece of information, man. Hopefully somebody can utilize it to their benefit. And with that being stated, man, y'all be easy, man. Catch y'all on the next one.